Justin, can you share a little bit about yourself and your story of your entrepreneurship across multiple different companies and as your life as an investor?
Sure. Yeah. So my name's Justin. Thanks for having me. And I guess I've been an internet entrepreneur and investor for the last 15 years here in Silicon Valley. Started a lot of companies. Most of them, some of them were failures. Some of them were successful. The one that people know about the most is Justin TV, which eventually turned into Twitch, which we ran kind of the whole journey was from 2006 when we started Justin TV all the way through to 2014, where we sold Twitch to Amazon for $970 million. Then I was a partner at Y Combinator, investing in startups, all sorts of startups from chat APIs to payments infrastructure and genetic engineering companies and biotech companies, like kind of everything across the board. So that was pretty fun. And then more recently, I've been starting some new companies, working on incubating companies, and now I'm kind of just doing that and figuring out what's next. Yeah.
Cool. I remember going to your office to get advice around Series A, and thank you for sharing all this advice. And I really enjoyed your blog content too, about how to fundraise, running a fundraising type process. So hopefully other future entrepreneurs can continue to learn from your wisdom as well. So kind of speaking of wisdom, if you were to kind of go back in time and start all over your next startup, well, I think you're kind of doing that already. But what are the things that you do differently? What are the things that you'd be keep as top of your mind that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, if I went back and started everything all over, I'd probably start Facebook. But like back in time, if I could go back and tell myself something, that I should be doing different, like back in 2015, I think the big thing, obviously, I think things worked out pretty well, so I can't complain. I don't wish things were different. I think one thing we struggled with was really learning how to talk to our customers and identifying like who we're serving, like what customer we're serving really strongly, and then figuring out how to create a tight feedback with that customer. And I feel like every time I've actually failed at a company, it's because of that. That's like one of the critical things I've kind of failed to do. And so I think that's probably like the number one challenge and struggle that I struggle with as an entrepreneur, that I wish I could go back and like tell myself. But even after learning that lesson once with Twitch, where what happened was Emmett really, my co-founder, was really into the gaming thing, and gaming was like a very nascent part of the site. But we decided we needed to kind of pivot from this general live streaming site, which was okay but wasn't growing anymore, and identify something different that we would do. And so Emmett really was like, we need to talk to these customers, these people who are gaming streamers. Let's like figure out what they want. And we really learned a lot from like doing customer development with these people, whereas before we had just kind of built features that we thought were cool and then released them. And when we started really narrowing that feedback, or like tightening that feedback loop with a specific set of people, that's when everything really accelerated.
That's great, because and I'm also I resonate a lot, because when we kind of pivoted to SendBird, all we did literally was live by the Y6 mantra, talk to customers and build product. And that was literally the only thing that I do on a daily basis, was talk to the next prospect. But what do you think kind of stops the entrepreneurs from talking to customers? Why do you think they hesitate?
I think people are scared, at least for myself. Like I was, scared sometimes to talk to customers because I knew my product was buggy, or there were things that people didn't like, and I didn't like want to, I was kind of in denial in a way. So I think fear is one component. I think there's a component of ego where you're like, well, I'm my own customer, or I know what I'm a great product person, so I know what people want, and I don't need to talk to them. It's very obvious, And so I feel like that's another kind of factor that might prevent someone. Those are probably the two that like most affected me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you're working on your startup and continue to invest, but I also have been following you on social media. You're, I think, a big advocate of like self-awareness, meditation, and so forth. So on your personal side of things, what are some of the things you focus on? What's on top of your mind? Any kind of like lesson, something you'd like to share?
Well, the probably biggest lesson for me, period, is that, when I I got into startups, it was 15 years ago, 2005, and I really I had something to prove. I was like, I want to start a big company, and actually, at the time, it wasn't even a big company. I was just like, I want to start a company that exists, and I want to make money and be successful. And so I was really motivated by extrinsic factors, right? External things, right? So then over the course of years and years, I became more successful, and I accomplished those things actually far beyond where I ever thought I would when I started off. And the interesting thing was actually that accomplishing these things in the external world gave me a temporary sense of success or feeling or happiness, but it was always very fleeting, and then kind of went back down to baseline. Every time I'd kind of reach some new high, it'd be great, this is amazing, and then very quickly, one day or 1 week later, it would just go back to kind of my normal self. And I was starting a company called Atrium. We just shut down actually a couple months ago, but it was as I was trying to, it was I thought it was a brilliant idea. It was it could be my biggest idea ever, and I was starting it. And a couple of years ago, I realized I was just as stressed as I ever was when I started any of my companies, and I was kind of questioning why. I was like, why am I so stressed out about this when objectively, I could always just go back to what I was doing, being an investor, and just fine. And I realized that I was, this kind of stress for me was based on, I wasn't really finding fulfillment in my internal self, right? I was always chasing after these extrinsic goals. And so that put me on this journey to really discover what are the things that can make me happier and more at peace in my daily life. And that's how I started meditating. I started working really hard on my own diet and exercise, and kind of really focusing more on my interpersonal relationships rather than kind of things on the outside. So that's really what I care a lot about, talk a lot about on Twitter and social media, and that's those are the things that I really think a lot about.
Yeah, I think that I came across the concept extrinsic and intrinsic motivation from Daniel Pink's Drive book.
Yeah,
and that's something that we also talk about during the SendBird's onboarding process as well. And I think it's really critical for entrepreneurs and just any people in general to really understand what kind of drives you through mastery, autonomy, or purpose. So thank you for sharing that. Since you, I remember seeing one of those early video streams of Justin TV floating on the internet, and I was hilarious. Who is this guy? Why would this person do this? But I could never imagine that it would kind of become the idea or the idea behind Twitch and things like that. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about kind of digital entertainment, live events, especially what's happening with COVID right now around the world. A lot of events are becoming more virtual, like the one we're doing today. So, COVID has really driven that boom in digital entertainment, from not just from Netflix and online gaming, live streaming, their virtual house parties. There's a trending of Clubhouse and so forth. Do you think the consumer behavior has shifted kind of fundamentally, or will this kind of boom in usage die down after the world kind of opens back up? What's your take on that?
I think there's the coronavirus and the corresponding lockdowns have created, have really accelerated a bunch of different products. But I think that they've created, there's some of those products that are actually better than the offline alternative in some way, and some of them that are merely a forced substitute, right? So I'll give you some examples. And I think the ones that are actually better, they're just accelerating the adoption of those things, and that's a permanent behavior change. And I think the ones that are forced substitutes, it's likely that it will swing back to mostly swing back to kind of the way things were before, right? So an example is, I think the things that are better. E-commerce is obviously way up, right? It doubled from 15% in the US to 30% or something like that of commerce. But e-commerce, it is better in a bunch of ways. It's more convenient. There's more selection, and so I think that's a more permanent behavior shift. The retailers, the guys who are Macy's and stuff like that are shutting down. Those things are not coming back, in my opinion. Movie theaters, movie theaters are already on the decline. Online streaming, watching movies on Netflix, that's just accelerating, and that's going to be permanent, right? Examples of maybe new behaviors that I think are more likely to stick. I think digital fitness, people doing workout classes on like Zoom and stuff like that. I think that is something that is better in a way than the offline component. It's better in the like convenience, right? It's not maybe better in some other ways. Like I think it's more fun maybe to go to SoulCycle or Bears Boot Camp or something like that. But I think it's a little bit more convenient to do it from home. And so I do think there will be that part of that, behavior will stick. Certain behaviors that I don't think will stick or like as much are like the ones where like an online party. Like I just think the online party is like not as fun as like a real party. Like and it's not it's not better and that really it's not a good substitute. And so to be honest, when things on lockdown and people are able to like see each other and gather in groups again, like I don't think online parties are going to be around. Like I don't think the Zoom birthday party is going to be like a thing. It's like I've been to more Zoom birthday parties than I ever need to go to in my life now. Like it's not fun. So that's kind of how I'd break it down. And if I was thinking about as an entrepreneur, right, about like what is the future going to look like, or like what's a good start to start during this time, then I would be thinking along those lines. What's actually better versus like what do people just have to do because they're like in this lockdown period.
Yeah. Speaking of which, at our company, we also host like virtual happy hours. We've done like virtual wine tasting. Also, all sorts. Virtual wine tasting was actually really, really fun. I think the person, sommelier, did a wonderful job of pulling people in. But just virtual happy hours in general, I started replacing alcohol with coffee, water. That experience didn't really make a difference. Yeah. And I actually quit drinking alcohol about 3 months ago. And and I think you also quit alcohol. Was it 4 year ago now? Like how long has it been?
Just over a year. Yeah, it was probably like 15 months ago, something like that. I think it was March. Yeah. So that's great. Good for you, John. Congrats.
Yeah, I do kind of miss that social event because if it was like done offline, I think I would have enjoyed it. But just virtual, it's not really the same.
Yeah.
So
I do think the virtual happy hour may stick around if for remote companies. Like if you're going to do a fully remote company, then maybe that's like you got to think about like what's the total package, like what will stick in terms of like what's the advantage of the total package. Whereas the virtual happy hour is just one component of like running a fully remote company, and the fully remote company is like it's cheaper, it gives people more flexibility. So there's some trade-offs versus like a physically co-located company, but I feel like a lot of companies will stay like as fully remote after this because they've realized like the trade, it's worth it from a kind of employee freedom and productivity standpoint.
Yeah, sure. Oh, will you start your company in full remote?
Yeah, if I start a new company, I would start it fully remote now. I think San Francisco, and I thought that actually before, I thought that before coronavirus, but it's just so expensive here in San Francisco. I think that it's really good for certain things like synchronicity and, being able to like just have random conversations with people about interesting things. But like, I feel like the cost trade-off is just like so high, and that is prohibitive for a lot of talent. So this, various projects I've been working on, it's like I'm working with different teams that are all around the world now.
Yeah. Going back to the trying a little bit about the live events, live streaming. We're starting to see a lot of, especially from our customers too, what used to be the offline experience, whether it be watching sports, live leagues, concerts, events, all of that is now quickly being transformed digitally. And new kind of content such as like live music concerts are like really driving the audience to live streaming platforms. And I think also there was like a trending Twitter a few weeks back. Fortnite, one of the games, was hosting like a virtual concert with Travis Scott. I don't know if you can see the video, but it was kind of mind blowing as a ex-professional gamer. Back in the days, I would have never imagined seeing like a music concert within a game, and that was like a truly transformational experience. And would you like share a little bit of insight about the emergence of these